Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the edition here of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It is review time of Week 2's matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And the Patriots didn't get the win, losing 23-20 in overtime to Seattle. Quite heartbreaking, to be honest with you. But we've got Kieran and we've got JD with me tonight to dissect the Seattle game. Before we get cracking over the show, make sure you smash the like button, you Gronk spike the subscribe button, tell all your friends, follow us on all our social media platforms, and follow us on our podcast on the Sports Social Network and Spotify as well. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for coming to. It will be, I don't know if it's going to be like a somber show or an anger show. I don't know, because there's a lot to talk about in this game. But first of all, how are you doing? How have your week been? How have you enjoyed the weekend so far? And JD, I effing hate you because you beat me in fantasy.
Yeah, well, in that case, I'm very good, and I had a lovely weekend. Thank you for asking. No, I stuck another bet on the Patriots game this week. I had an accumulator for 98 quid off a pound. That was a Jalen Polk touchdown, Hunter Henry over on the yards, which were like 25, so he destroyed that. I had Jacoby Brissett under 182 passing yards, and then I went under on the point spread, which was 39.5, and it ended up being 43. I was absolutely devastated. So I was this close.
Good effort, though. Good effort. Yeah, you got a long way into that.
I'll be honest, in that halfway through the first quarter, when Jalen Polk had got a touchdown and Hunter Henry was over his yards, I was like, holy shit, this might actually happen. I was pretty happy.
Kieran, how was your weekend been?
Yeah, not too bad. Back-to-back weeks of cashing on DraftKings, which has gone pretty well. The Baker Mayfield stacks have been paying off for me, which has been good. But yeah, pretty standard, to be honest. Wasn't too disheartened with the result Sunday. Probably just more frustrated because I felt like it was a game we should have won. But I think going into it, we said it was a coin flip. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, the weekend's been good. I had a good run in the pick'em for week 2 on another podcast. Week 2 winner won the tiebreaker because I picked the lowest score out of the Eagles Falcons game. Very, very annoyed with a certain DJ on here because he was the only one out of our group who actually picked against the Patriots. You Judas. So. But anyway,
I actually won our score prediction little thing last week, which I was quite surprised to see when Nick put that in the group. But to be fair, Carl, you and Nick were only 1 point behind me, and so was JD. So that was a really close week.
Yeah, but we only what was that? Score the actual over the total.
Yeah, the bonus
is that the total or just the week?
I didn't really know. That was just for the week. Okay. So.
And I also did beat DJ on fantasy this week as well. So sorry, DJ.
Let's get all the bragging out of the way at the top of the podcast.
Yeah, it's just the three of us. We can here. Humble brags all around.
You can't defend yourself.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen. So 23-20 in overtime. It's a loss to Seattle. We could probably say this was a bit of a 50-50. For us to think this would be a bit of a low scoring, not dull game, but it was be trench warfare. A lot of running games, a lot of run stuffs. We're going to see some not major issues in this game. What actually turned out to be probably one of the most entertaining Patriots games I've seen in years. Let's start with we're going to start with negatives, okay? Because we're not going to do that because a lot of people tell us that this is a moral victory. Side note, no such thing as a moral victory. It's a win or a loss. We lost. We're 1-1. Get over yourself. But we will start with the good points. We want to see a little bit more of the passing game. We did. Unfortunately, it was only for one player, and that was Hunter Henry. The stat line is unbelievable. 117 yards on, what is it, 8 or 9 receptions? 8 receptions, wasn't it?
I think he had 10, didn't he?
Or over 10 receptions. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
I can't remember off the top of my head. But I thought he was brilliant, especially early on. I think you saw that Seattle were obviously missing some bodies in the linebacking spot, and their secondary is brilliant. Witherspoon and Woolen are fantastic. Julian Love is so good. Just his range at free safety is phenomenal. And I think they kind of covered our receivers out wide really well. And if you look at the next gen stats, like the average separation per route run from our receivers was so poor. I think the league average is something like 2.9 yards. And I think our players were down in like 1 point something. I think Polk and Pop were down by like 1.92-ish. And Osborne was like 1.1. So they were blanketing our receivers pretty well. And I think that a lot of the time, especially late in the game when they were sending the house, we were in max protect. So we had players sitting in, running backs and tight ends sitting in, and really realistically having 2 or 3 receivers actually running routes down the field. And they were just blanketing us to such a degree that it was difficult for us, I think, to get the ball to anybody out wide. And especially when I think it's clear 2 games in that Jacoby Brissett has been given the instruction of do not turn the ball over and do not kill us. Because I think he's really treading that line between not turning the ball over. And he has 1 turnover-worthy play in 2 games, which is brilliant. He just unfortunately has 0 big-time throws, which is difficult. It's difficult to win games when your quarterback is hesitant to pull the trigger.
That's what part of the title was. It's basically we played, for what I saw for Brissett. Yes, he made some good throws when he needed to, but there are just times in this game where I just felt like he's playing safe, but he's also playing scared at the same time. I don't want to say that to a quarterback, but watching that game, he was playing scared. He was playing to not turn the ball over. He was playing not to lose the game. When you play to not lose the game, you end up losing said game. We will pinpoint the analysis out when we see some more plays where Brissett completely misses his receivers again. It's the second week running. I'm not going to go too hard on it, but when you start seeing a recurring pattern, then questions need to start being asked.
I think I've been quite impressed with Brissett so far in that I think his ability to extend plays and his pocket movement, he's not necessarily a mobile quarterback. When obviously Rob Mayo's highlighted that in his press conference, but I think his pocket mobility has been brilliant because he's coming from muddy pockets a lot of the time. I think some of the plays where his reads have been taken away because he's just getting penetration from the offensive line at a spot that doesn't allow him. There were a few plays where Layden Robinson was giving up immediate pressure and that he had to move to his left because Robinson's at right guard. And that's just taking away that right-hand side of the field because he's having to move this way and then he can't turn and open back up to his right. So it's that immediate pressure is impacting quite a lot, I think. And I do think he's doing really well with the pressure that's given him. But ultimately, this is the issue of playing a physically limited quarterback where he can't make, and I think that we might cover it later, but the leak play to Hunter Henry that was in the third quarter where he tried a moving pocket and then wanted to throw back and the pressure came and he couldn't quite set his feet and he had to make this 20-yard throw to Hunter Henry, who's wide open, and he just didn't have the strength to make that throw. And I think that's the issue where we're playing with a limited quarterback. We know what Jacoby Brissett is. He doesn't turn the ball over. He plays within himself. He's not going to kill us. And when that goes right and the defense doesn't make mistakes and we get some luck, we end up with a game like the Bengals game. I think when those miscues start to happen on the defensive or offensive side and things don't quite go our way in terms of the calls and rubber the green and things, you end up with a game like the Seattle game.
Yeah, I think.
Go on, Kevin.
I think when you're looking at the stat line, it isn't sustainable to have 3 completions on 4 targets to wide receivers, no matter what level you're playing at. And I know there's a sense of don't turn the ball over, but that's just taking the piss, in my opinion. Like, your wide receivers are your playmakers. And whether you're just getting 5-yard gains or 3-yard gains and you're progressively moving down the field, you've got to get the ball to your receivers. And like we spoke about it in our group chat, the thing that concerns me about Jacoby Brissett, and I said it on the podcast building up to the season, as much as I think he's navigated the pocket quite well, and considering the pressure he's had, I still think he's holding the ball too long. Now, yes, there are times where there's nothing open, and you forgive him for that. But there are times where he's holding the ball too long. And I think But there have also been times where there is something on and he's not made the throw. He's not pulled the trigger. And then he's scrambling out of the pocket and throwing it into the stand, which, okay, yes, throw it away if it's not on, fine. But that's where I think that Drake may have the ability to make something happen out of structure, whether it's on the run, whether it's throwing on the run, or just doing something different. Just that ability to try and convert these situations into touchdowns. Because once again, just like last week, we're in the red zone plenty of times, and we've had a blocked field goal. And then on other occasions, we've been in short yardage. We've kicked field goals, not scored touchdowns. That game was there for the taking. And I think a quarterback that can get us over that hump and can get the ball in the receiver's hands and is a playmaker would be able to do that. And it just made me come away thinking, we're competitive. We're competitive in these games. We just need that uptick in performance from our skill position players, and we will win games. But unfortunately, the facilitator is not facilitating as well as we need him to in certain areas. Yes, he's played well in certain aspects of his game, but there's a lot that you can critique him on too.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We're saying that, I think we're playing within a very specific structure. And I think, to be fair, I actually think it's a really good idea from Jerome Mayo and the staff. I think this is how a very talent-poor team wins. And most teams, unless we're going to play the Carolina Panthers, we're going to play against, we are going to be talent-deprived compared to. And I think if you look at the rosters on paper, I know Seattle were obviously missing a chunk of important players, but I think we were a far inferior team on paper. And I think this is, we muddy the game up. One of the things my wife is certainly appreciating is how much we're running the ball and shortening the game. These games are over in under 3 hours. So I think she quite appreciates that game plan. I can tell you that. But I think that kind of tactic of just don't give the team the ball that much, shorten the game is good. But like Kieran pointed out, we've got to take the chances when they come. And one of the things that's concerning me so far is we're running the ball really well, but there's no threat of play action off of, we should have a play action threat because we're running the ball so well. But I think teams are so unconcerned by our ability to pass the ball that they are just sitting in cover two and going, run it, go for it. Because they're not threatened by our receivers, and they know Jacoby is reluctant to take shots downfield. And if they sit in a cover two shell, he's not going to take them. And that's how we're getting beat right now. And sometimes, I know turnover-worthy players are generally a bad thing, but you need them every now and again. You need a risky 50-50 ball just to make a defense honest. And if we're never going to run that risk, it's just not. We're not going to have an offense that's going to win us a lot of games. We're going to have an offense that might not lose us a game, but not win us one.
And I also think there's got to be some accountability on the part of the skill position players too. Now, Jalen Polk seems to be getting open reasonably consistently. So, and he scored a touchdown in this game. So I've got no concerns about him at this stage. We have seen nothing from Tyquan Thornton. Shock.
Nope.
And even KJ Osborne has done nothing. Now, and Demario Douglas is not getting targeted. Now, Douglas is our probably most shifty, over the middle, typical sort of twitchy slot receiver that should be getting 8 to 9 targets a game, realistically. Whether he catches all 8 or 9 targets is another story, but he should be getting those targets over the middle. That should be the easy option for Jacoby Brissett. But we don't have anything coming from Osborne and Thornton at the moment. So it begs the question, I think it was Doug Kyde that said this on his podcast yesterday. Does it just get to a point where you go, do you know what, guys? You've played 2-3 games or whatever. You've done nothing. We're going to run a wide receiver trio of Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, and give Kayshon Boutte a run as well. And just go with the young guys. Because if those older players are not doing anything, then just, okay, well, let's have a bit of rotation then. Because I certainly think that Kayshon Boutte and Javon Baker can make plays. Yes, they're going to be probably frustrating at times because of their backgrounds. But, if you're getting nothing from Osborne and Thornton's an empty uniform at this stage. We spoke in the offseason, and Johnny, you were quite strong on, we need someone to take the top off the defense. The guy just don't really do anything. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I think, again, it goes back to as fast as he is, and he does that well, is he actually taking the top of the defense if we're never taking a shot? I mean, you look at 2 games in, you mentioned Pop Douglas, 2 targets, Tyquan Thornton, 3, Jalen Polk, 4. If you look at our top receivers, cumulatively, our wide receivers have 85 yards on the season. That's it. 85 yards. Like, Justin Jefferson had more than that in one play at the weekend. That's... If one of them had 85 yards in a single game, that'd be a decent game. But not the entire core across 2 games. That's what we've seen.
What's the cumulative targets on the season? Does it say that for the wide receivers?
So for wide receivers, we have 8 targets for Osborne, 4 for Polk, 3 for Thornton. So that's 15. 17 if we did Demario Douglas is 2. So 17 targets.
17 targets to wide receivers through 2 games is unsustainable.
That's 8.5. So we're getting target 8.5 times a game.
I don't care how shit
on
your
average.
Line is,
on
that
average.
is not good enough.
For 11 catches. But then for me, the remedy to that is you use a quick game. You get the ball out of your hands quickly. You throw bubble screens. You run to the flat from play action. You have motions. You have things like that. And I think to a degree is we're not. Those receivers are not getting quick releases. I thought Seattle had a really nice game plan. Sit in the cover 2 shell, play a lot of man, close to the line of scrimmage, because you can if you've got Witherspoon and Woolen. They're big, strong corners with fast feet who can do that. Don't give us anything quick, and don't give them any big plays. Let them have the intermediate stuff. And to a degree, they did that with Hunter Henry. But they just sat in man and not quite press all the time, but played quite shallow coverage and just said, look, you're not getting anything quick and you're not having anything over the top. But we can't run that intermediate stuff particularly well because that's not our strength. And they forced us to do that. And I think that was a really good game plan. I also think we're not really getting open. And that's a problem. We can't get open quickly. And we have a quarterback who's not willing to take a deep shot. And that's not a recipe that's gonna win many games, I don't think.
Honestly, the first 2 games, I think we've tried to play safe to maybe try and win 2 games before we know we have to go against the Jets, which is not going to be easy on tomorrow night. And then next Sunday, we're going against the juggernaut, there's the 49ers. I mean, at some point, if you don't pull the trigger on those 2 games, and there will be the heads already started talking already, we should be sticking Drake May in there. But the problem you got is, he might be able to extend the plays, but the offensive line is not going to be any better. It's not like it's going to change overnight. It's not like it's going to change in a week. The best things this team could do right now, they keep Brissett in there, either until he gets absolutely whacked to such a certain extent that they have to take him out, or they put May in from week 5 onwards. Because here's what I say. I don't see, because the Jets game is going to be a hard one. The 49ers game will be a hard one. We're at home to Miami, who don't have Tua Tagovailoa. That's a game I could potentially see Drake May maybe starting.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen a lot of suggestion about this online. And I think, you're right. You could throw him out there in week 5. Jacoby's had 4 games. May's had an extra month and a half to prepare to start. But I think you also made a good point there, Carl, is the offensive line is not going to change overnight. It doesn't make much of a difference from throwing him in next game to throwing him in the Dolphins game in 3 weeks' time. Like, the line is going to be bad all year. No matter when you throw him in, he's going to be under pressure a lot. So
good job, Drake. Good job. Yeah, good job then, Drake May. Never were behind an offensive line in North Carolina then.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where you go, yes, he's no matter what point of the season he comes in, that line is probably going to be all over the place. So at what point do you just go, sod it? He's just a better player. And he gives us a better chance to win. We've got an opportunity here. The Jets night on Thursday night is going to be tough. We're on the road. They're a good defensive team. Do I think they're fantastic on offense so far? No, I think they look rusty. But we're playing the 49ers in 2 weeks' time, who say are going to be a bloodbath. But this is a team that's lost Deebo Samuel. It's lost Christian McCaffrey. They've got injuries racking up left, right, and center. So that might not be as bad as you think. And then,
They
as you
will
said,
still
Carl,
find
we're
ways. They
playing
will
the
still.
Dolphins at home with Skylar Thompson. Now, we should be absolutely eating him for breakfast. Like, that guy cannot play. So that is a perfect. Like, we've got an opportunity to stack some wins here, and
If we can get
out.
the one caveat I'll end on that though is we need to get pressure on the quarterback, because apparently a stat come out earlier on, I think it was yesterday, that apparently we were ranked second worst in pressure rating on the quarterback. That has to change.
And the Jets ranked first in pressure rating defensively. So that's not a great combo.
I think Brissett's gonna. I don't want to say it, but Brissett might die tomorrow night.
I think we were one of the lowest in total pressures, but in terms of our win rate was the fourth highest. So we're not pressuring as much as other teams, but when we do, we are good at it. I think that's kind of the thing to take away. But yeah, I'm concerned about that Jets front, although they've just lost Jermaine Johnson and CJ Mosley. So that
CJ Mosley one's always a big one. They always seem to lose him.
I'm not trying to make a case saying we're going to go on the road on Thursday and beat the Jets and then beat the 49ers, but things are falling in place for us. We're playing teams that have literally, we've played the Bengals without T. Higgins. We've played Seattle without Kenneth Walker. We've now got the Jets without two defensive stars. We've got the 49ers without Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. Things are breaking for us, and it only takes a couple of things to go wrong for other teams for us to perhaps pick up a couple of wins. And like, if we've got the opportunity to put some teams away, you've got to have the best team on the field.
And I think part of the issue that we're going to face, though, is that David Andrews is listed as questionable for the game, wasn't he, on Thursday? The game tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then Sidney So and Vidarian Lowe are going to be out as well. So you're looking at potentially 60% of our starting offensive line is going to be gone.
I think Andrews will be
to begin with.
I think Andrews will be good to go. I know
maybe so, but even still, we're already at a practice squad guard, with Michael Jordan there, and then
I thought Jordan did okay, to be honest. I didn't think he did that particularly bad.
I think he's been probably one of the most solid on the offensive line. Vidarian Lowe has actually been better than we've expected. I think Michael Onwenu, we need him back at guard as soon as possible, to be honest. I'd rather have.
But you got no one at right tackle, though.
I'd rather have Caden Wallace. I think Michael Onwenu, I said in the podcast going into the season, if Michael Onwenu can be a league average right tackle, he's more valuable there than he is at guard. I don't think he's been league average right tackle now. I think especially last weekend,
It's two games. It's 2 games. I don't think. All right. We just had breaking news coming through from the Patriots side. Patriots signed rookie defensive end Jamri Cromar to the 53-man roster, and they placed linebacker O'Shane Ximmons on the injured reserve. Oh, for fuck's sake. Another linebacker that's now on injured reserve. So O'Shane Ximmons on injured reserve now. Oh, dear. As if losing Jawan Bentley wasn't bad enough. Because that's another huge loss.
Are stacking up, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not just us though, but there are injuries smashing up all over the ball, all over the NFL. I don't know what the hell happened in week 2, but it became freaking Black Sunday.
I see. Just going back to JD's point, I see what you're saying about Onwenu would probably have a higher ceiling playing at guard and would be more dependable playing at guard. It's probably his best position, but don't think Layden Robinson has been that bad that I'd want to take him out. Like, I actually think
I'd take Michael Jordan. I'd take Michael Jordan out.
And want to move Layden to the left.
Yeah.
But if Vidarian Lowe is not out, but if Vidarian Lowe is out, which what it looks like it's going to be, which means your makeshift line is going to now end up being Owena at right tackle, Robinson at right guard, Andrews at center, Jordan at left guard, and we're gonna stick our rookie third rounder in Caden Wallace at left tackle.
And to be fair, when he's played it, he's had a few reps at inline tight end, and his run blocking has been brilliant. So that's what we're going to do most of the time anyway. So I'd rather see what we've got in Caden Wallace than.
It'll be a good test for him. It'll be a very good test for him.
Vidarian Lowe, I don't know if for me, he's a bit of a progress stopper. Like, I think we know what Vidarian Lowe is. He's slightly below average starting left tackle in the NFL, or far below average, likely. I don't know what Caden Wallace is. And the way the line is playing, is it going to be that much worse? He cannot be worse than Chuck Okorafor, and we're willing to go into the season starting him.
It can't be.
So why not see what we've got in Caden Wallace? I don't.
Yeah,
I think it's
he
worth a
may
shot.
end up being an upgrade. That's the thing. And Lowe allowed 4.5 pressures and allowed a sack this week. Like, he regressed to the mean after being reasonably stout against the Bengals. And Wenu did have a stinker this week, but I think history has shown that he's more than capable of playing that position. I think he wants stability. Like you said about moving Layden to the left. I think he's never played anywhere else other than right guard before. So, I know, once again, he's going to have to line up differently on the left. I quite persist with that. I know he struggled a little bit in the Seattle game, but I think I've seen enough from him so far where I'm not really concerned about him.
Nah, keep him in there. Keep him in there.
Yeah,
I think
how Caleb Wallace does.
I think his run blocking, I've been really impressed with. He's aggressive, especially when we're running zone plays. His zone blocking is really strong, and he's aggressive, and he's just a bit nasty, really, to be honest, which I like. And Michael Onwenu is a big dude. And then you've obviously got David Andrews, who's a smart veteran centre. That, to me, solidifies the interior offensive line quite nicely, and I'd be really happy with that set there. Obviously, that weakens the tackles. If we have Vidarian Lowe back and Caden Wallace is healthy, then I'd be happy with those. Well, happy is a strong word. I'd be not disappointed with that. But I think, Layden Robinson in pass coverage, pass blocking right now has allowed 8 pressures in 2 games. Like, it's not great. And then Michael Onwenu was really rough at the weekend. I think he got
37.5 grade. I think he has from Pro Football Focus, which is awful.
Yeah, that
was one of his worst games at right tackle I've seen him play.
And
that you can't be any worse than that.
Exactly, and that for me is I don't think Caden Wallace is likely going to be that much worse. He is a tackle. So for me, I would rather, if he's going to be playing like that on Onwenu, I'd rather move him inside at a comfortable position and solidify the center of that offensive line and use a similar game plan to what we used in the Bengals game, where let them chase, run the hoop, let the defensive edges kind of chase around the outside, solidify the front of the middle of the interior offensive line, and allow Jacoby Brissett to move up. I would much rather use that. And then it makes us a much stronger run blocking scheme up the middle as well. I think this thing for me, like I said before, Onwenu, if he went to tackle and he was going to be a league average tackle, he's far more valuable. He's not being that right now. And if it continues that way, I would like to get him back inside in a comfortable position so we can have at least some of the offensive line being strong, as opposed to turning what was a strength into a weakness.
Could we end up clambering back for Cole Strange to come back?
Yes, I think
because we're screaming about offensive line being this poor, but are we wondering right now? Is Cole Strange going to be the piece to come back to actually help solidify that left-hand side a little bit, maybe?
He's another guard, though. This is why I think, as much as I think Layden Robinson's been okay, I just think that was a wasted draft pick because we don't need another guard. We've our guard positions with Sidney So, who's better than we thought he was going to be. Layden Robinson's been all right. Michael Onwenu is one of the best guards in the league. Cole Strange is serviceable, overdrafted, but serviceable. We didn't need another guard.
Very overdrafted.
But then again, actually, a lot of the tackles that we spoke about that we liked in the draft, Kingsley Sumatea has not played particularly well. JC Latham has struggled incredibly. Rosengarten at Baltimore has really struggled as well.
I'd back you off there on JC Latham because he only gave up 1 pressure in the game against the Jets.
Yeah, but if you watch his tape, he has not looked good. He's just oversetting every play. I think they're scheming him in the second game because the first game he was awful. So I think there's not a lot. I don't know if the options were there. For us at offensive line.
Going back to the Drake May thing and obviously behind this offensive line, and we're talking about the deficiencies and the pressure that Jacoby's seeing and whatnot. Do you think there's almost some scouting going around within the team where they're watching what's happening to Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and thinking we don't really want the same thing? I mean, Jaden Daniels has got wheels. Like, he's running around like a lunatic a lot of the time, probably out of his choice rather than anything. But Caleb Williams has obviously had a bit of a rough introduction to the league so far. And actually, if you watch the tape from the other night against Houston, although he got sacked a lot and he threw a couple of picks, I actually think he played reasonably well in the circumstances.
Have you seen the pressure rate? you seen the pressure?
Yeah,
36 pressures on 44 dropbacks.
It's insane. And you would
That
look
line is shambolic.
bad, but like they're going into the season, they were saying Caleb Williams is being dropped into arguably one of the greatest situations a rookie quarterback has gone into, where he's got a solid offensive line, a good running back, and 3 very good receivers, and he's still struggling. So do you think there's almost a part of it where they're thinking, oh Christ, if Caleb's struggling, then maybe we don't put Drake in? Do you think that? It made me think the other day.
The thing was though, what Caleb Williams is doing is all well and dandy if you're playing Arizona State. You're not playing Arizona State. You're playing in the NFL. You can't get away with what you're doing in the NFL because you will get eaten alive. But I will say this, the offensive line doesn't do him any favors, although it is probably the Bears' offensive line is probably better than ours by a country flipping mile. But even so, they're still struggling to protect him. But you saw what Caleb could do, can run out of the pocket and throw on the run. The problem is, though, those sorts of plays, he can get found out very, very quickly. That does worry me when it comes to Drake.
Hero play a lot of the time.
He looks for the hero. He goes hero ball. He tries and plays hero ball all the time. Whereas Drake May, I don't think he plays hero ball. I think he had no choice in North Carolina. If that line doesn't get him, he had to just get rid of it, whether it was a check down or just bomb it to Quez Walker, thank you. That I was looking for the receiver.
Or Josh Downs the year before.
Josh Downs the year before, who's now in Indianapolis.
I think with Caleb, and we're getting off the Patriots here, but with Caleb, I think that's a product of the USC team he played at. He had to score on 52 every week to win a game at USC because their defense was just disgustingly awful. And so I think he literally had to play hero ball every week. So a lot of his stat lines were 5 touchdowns but 2 picks. And he had tons and tons of big throws. And he's one of those players, certainly at college, that you watch his highlights and you think, this guy might be one of the best players I've ever seen. But you watch his lowlights and you think, holy shit, what is this guy doing? But he is, we spoke earlier about Jacoby, sometimes you've got to take those risky plays and just make the defense honest. Caleb does that to a fault, I think. Obviously they always talk about open and NFL open, don't they, in terms of the passing lanes? And I think he's finding that transition difficult. And I mean, an 86% or whatever that works, 36 over 44 works out at pressure rate is just nuts. And I don't care how generational or how good you are as a quarterback prospect. Nobody's doing anything against that because that's just not, you can't function. That's not a functioning offense. No. With a pressure rate like that. And I think that is probably why. And one of the things I think the big takeaways for me against the Seahawks, the Patriots, to segue back to the Patriots, was when you saw that final drive, you saw why our playing style is like it is. Because the second we went into true pass sets where we have to throw the ball, there's no threat of play action, there's no threat of us running the ball because of the time allowance. We just immediately pressure got to us and we couldn't run simple West Coast principles because the offensive line was so poor. And I think that's why you're seeing us play the way we're playing. We have to keep the game close. We have to keep the scoreline close. We have to, pressure teams and keep the ball away from them and put the pressure on them, because if it's on us to go and win a game, we just don't have the horses to do that. And so I think that for me was a big eye opener when we went 3 and out immediately in true pass sets, because it was just we can't do this. I think that with Caleb Williams is where they are putting him in true pass sets. They're sitting him there in 11 personnel and or 5 wide and just saying, go read a defense and go try to win the game. And he's not going to do that because the offensive line's too poor, and that's not the offense he plays in. So it is a little concerning for Caleb Williams. The system that they're trying to fit him into is just not conducive for what he does well.
Moving back into this game, obviously there was a couple of bad plays that we did need to speak about. One of them is the busted coverage on the DK Metcalf touchdown. I don't think anyone has done that to us in don't know how many years, because we never used to give up those sorts of plays. It looks like there was a miscommunication between Duggar and Gonzalez on that play. I think Duggar was meant to drop and he didn't. That was bad.
Yeah,
When I saw that in real time, I'm like, oh, the first thing I shouted and screamed, "What the fucking hell are you doing, Gonzalez? Why are you not there?" And then as I saw the replay, I was like, no, Duggar's the safety. He should have dropped, and they didn't. And you just let Duggar take it to the house for 56 yards. That's bad. That's
so
bad.
Duggar actually addressed this after the game, and he said that because he was wearing the green dot with Bentley out, so he was a defensive play caller. He said that he noticed something, the way that Seattle had lined up on offense and changed the play to a zero blitz. So he was going to step up and rush. Where there was, then that's where the breakdown in communication was between him and Gonzalez, because I think Gonzalez was expecting him to be behind him still, and he sent on to rush on a zero blitz, and that's where the mix-up came from. So Duggar took full responsibility for changing the defensive call because he clearly saw something that wasn't the case, and they decided to go down the sideline with it.
It's still inexcusable, though. With all due honesty, it's still inexcusable.
I think it's a product of perhaps because our ability to rush the passer and get pressure isn't wonderful. I think what you're seeing a lot of, more so than we did in the Belichick era. While Belichick gets a lot of credit for being kind of a defensive mastermind, a lot of what they did with Belichick was quite simple. It was basic schemes and principles just hidden well. I think what we're seeing from Covington and Jerod Mayo, and they certainly seem to be kind of adding this wrinkle, is they are way riskier with their coverage. They're far more willing to disguise stuff. I don't know if you saw more. It's more akin to what Flores is doing over at Minnesota. I don't know if you saw the thing went viral where they played Tampa 2 out of, like, they had 7 men on the line of scrimmage and 1 deep safety, and somehow played Tampa 2 out of that formation, which is just mind-boggling. And Brock Purdy went up to him after the game and said, like, your scheme is crazy. And that's a bit more like what we're doing, I think, at the minute. I think what they were supposed to be playing, if you watch the other side of the field, it looks like cover 7, which is basically single high, but with man matching principles on the outside. So essentially, it looks like man coverage, but if your receivers, one of you's taking deep and outside, one of you's taking short and inside, and it looks like Gonzalez was supposed to have the short and inside, and Duggar was supposed to take the deep and outside, and they've lined it up with Duggar on the outside because the running back was out there. So they've lined it up because traditionally you would have receivers and corners matched up and linebackers or safeties with running backs and tight ends. And so they've lined up like that with Gonzalez on the inside and Duggar on the outside to make it look like man and disguise it as cover 1 or cover 0 when they're actually running cover 7. And it looks like there's been a miscommunication with that coverage of Duggar. Duggar just got his eyes caught in the backfield. I think he was, like Kez said, he's obviously he's seen something he wants to attack and lost his discipline in the formation. Because you see at the other side, Jonathan Jones, his man runs a slant and he kind of steps in and then drops back out on the similar concept they were running on the backside. But there was no safety help because it was over to the other side and it ended up being, a long touchdown. But those kind of miscommunications didn't happen week 1. And that's when we were able to close the Bengals down. Because other than that, I don't think the Seahawks had really any massive plays. A couple of plays to Jackson Smith and Jigba, who they were targeting like he was going missing sometime soon. But it was, I thought that was a really interesting, perhaps whether we, like I said, that got a bit too smart for ourselves. And I think that probably illustrates the biggest impact we'll have with losing Juwan Bentley. I think he's a great run defender, and it'll certainly impact our run defense. But I think his ability, his leadership, and his ability to communicate the play and make sure everybody's in the right spot is his biggest strength for the team. And to lose that, I think, especially going into a week where we're going to play against the most experienced quarterback in the league, and Aaron Rodgers, that's probably a big challenge we're going to have without him for the year.
Yeah, I think if you look at Seattle's offense, I mean, we highlighted this going into the game. Like, it very much the case is almost pick your poison, and like defending Cincinnati without T. Higgins when it's basically right. Let's erase Jamar Chase and make them use Yosef Ass and Charlie Jones and Trenton Irwin and whatnot. But Seattle obviously have more very capable weapons. So Gonzalez 1v1 with Metcalf had a pretty good stat line. I think John Jones was on Tyler Lockett. And that's where they went, okay, we're going to put it over the middle to JSN and let him abuse Marcus Jones. And it really reminded me, actually, of, I think, I don't know if you guys can remember this, but probably about 10 years ago, we played the Packers, I think in a Thursday night game at Lambeau. And they had Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, both in their prime, and we shut them down. But Devontae Adams, in his rookie year, who was a relative unknown, completely annihilated us as their third receiver because we were selling out to stop their two big weapons that we knew about. I'm pretty sure they still had Eddie Lacy at running back, who at the time...
Yeah, Lacy was a running back, yeah.
And we were like, right, we're going to raise all these players, but then we let the unknown player absolutely scorch us almost, and he helped win them the game. And that's what it reminded me of. They were like, right, we're gonna stop Charbonnet to a certain extent. We're going to take DK and Tyler out of the game, but then we've been destroyed by JSN, and you can't cover everyone. And I thought Seattle got their offensive game plan spot on.
But that's what happens when you've got wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 that could all make impacts. You know, who's our receivers that can make the impact now? Okay, Polk is a possibility. Douglas is meant to be our WR1 because he's meant to be the main guy, but there's no one else out there that we've got. So, you know,
I think it's also body types as well. Like JSN is a big slot, and Marcus Jones is 5'8". Like, just stick it high in the air, and JSN's coming up with that every single time. So, like, it's the matchups as well.
Yeah, and I think Marcus Jones actually did quite well. If you look at the amount of yak that JSN got, it was really low. And if you look at the actual coverage, there were some plays where Jackson Smith-Njigba's just making a great catch, or Gino's put a ball in a spot that there's nothing Marcus Jones can do about it. And I thought he had some really nice reps against him. And I just thought, like we said before, we're going to rely on teams beating themselves. And I'm a bit of a Gino fan anyway. I think his resurgence in Seattle has been brilliant, and he's looked really good. And I thought the difference last week with Joe Burrow, which I didn't think was going to happen, and this week with Gino, was that Joe Burrow didn't take the shots. He didn't take what we were giving them. Gino did. He never put the ball in harm's way. He took what we gave. He had, like Kieran said, he identified matchups really well. He just said he identified that we weren't, where we were weak, what we were going to be able to do, and he took advantage of our mistakes. The Bengals didn't do that, and again, that's a factor. We made mistakes; they took advantage of them. They didn't make mistakes. A big concern I have got at the minute is how long is Ramondre Stevenson going to get away with his gamely fumble? That's 2 in 2 weeks where he's had a fumble and recovered it, and at some point, he's not going to recover that fumble every single time. So that did concern me a little bit. That's something we need to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah, and also he's on pace for over 400 touches this season, and that is completely unsustainable. I mean, I think the last real evidence of a running back in particular, getting completely ran into the ground and just burning out and falling off a cliff, it's probably DeMarco Murray when he was with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
He had like over 350 touches in that season, and then he was just like gone after that. He never did anything. And that's the worry.
Eagles, didn't he? It was awful.
Yeah. Right. And like it gets to the point where it's kind of like, well, do we need to dial him back and give Gibson more touches? Gibson, 96 yards on 11 carries. It's pretty good. Yeah. Like, do we need to start splitting that up a bit more?
And I've never seen anybody, his 45-yard run was just no help whatsoever. That was all on his own. The offensive line did not block for him at all on that play.
Right, we've done that on his own. Fair play to Gibson for that. I think they should be taken away. I think they should be taking even carries, I think, between them two. First in the running game.
But I think this is the problem when you don't pose any threat in the passing game. Like, if we're only targeting receivers, 18 times in 2 games, then you have to run the ball, right? You got 60 plays a game. That's 40 plays where we're not targeting receivers, where we're giving the ball to the running backs. Because not only is he going to have the rushing attempts, he's going to have receiving attempts as well, and he's going to be getting the ball in different ways. So we do need to dial him back, because at some point he's going to be running to the ground.
One piece of controversy I do want to catch on about. Now, obviously, we have seen the officiating in the NFL is subpar, shall we say? You're not going to get all the calls right. There are some egregious ones. There was a play, I think it was either the end of the fourth quarter or in OT, where Jonathan Jones was covering Tyler Lockett I believe. And he ended up getting a pass interference call, which put them in pretty much in field goal range. And looking at the replays, that's not pass interference. I don't want to throw my dummy out the pram here, but if that's pass interference, then my taint smells of lavender. I don't believe that for 1 second. But unfortunately, you're not going to get all these calls. I've stopped arguing about pass interference for like the last 3 years now, because it's just an irrelevant conversation. You're just going to go round and round and round in circles.
I think it's a tough one. I think it's difficult to see who initiates contact. It looks like Lockett. There's hand fighting. He's got his head back, which I think helps to kind of sell that it's not pass interference a bit. But I just think, especially down the field, if you've got two hands on a receiver, the referees are probably going to call it. And I think that was. I don't think it was uber egregious. I think it was odd that the one immediately after was like a play or two later with, I think it was it Marcus Jones? It was quite similar, and they didn't call pass interference on that. So I thought that was maybe a bit of balancing the books there. But yeah, I think I was more frustrated by the absolutely just mind-bogglingly stupid pass interference from Marco Wilson.
That was
in the end zone, shoved the receiver out of bounds.
That was a killer. Why'd you do that?
Why do it? Wasn't even a catchable ball anyway. I think there was an argument to be made that shouldn't have been called because it didn't look very catchable. But we'll never know.
That's the second game in a row now that Marco Wilson has done something stupid, and it's made the other team put points on the board. We did have a blocked field goal as well, which is not great at all.
Yeah, I think that for me, I was quite concerned with that one. I sort of put the blame on Jacoby Brissett there, even though he's obviously not on the field when the kick's blocked. But on a big third down, he took a sack.
3rd and 6.
Which made that a long field goal attempt. And typically, when you're kicking a long field goal, you have to kick flatter. So the block risk is there. Whereas if we don't take a 10-yard loss and a sack on that play, we're a little bit closer. Joey Sly can go for kind of a bit of a higher arcing kick and hopefully not get blocked. But yeah, that was a rough.
I think that was on Austin Hooper. He just lets his man run by him, and that's not good. But yeah, I think you're right. And just on the PI, like, it's a frustration from John Jones because it shouldn't have been called. But I think it was both Curran and Doug Kyde, both on their podcast, both a day apart, saying it was on first down. Does it really matter? Because the way our defense was tiring, would you really bet against Seattle going down the field still and scoring? Okay, it takes more time off the clock, but they could have easily gone down the field and still scored regardless of that pass interference because it was on the first down. If that's on 3rd down or 4th down, you get it. Like, you're fuming. But it was first down. They still have opportunities to move the ball and they just got a leg up. But yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Right. We've got a few plays to go through, and then we'll talk at the preview of the Thursday night game. Well, actually, it's tomorrow night, or rather the early hours of Friday morning. So if you're watching this today on Thursday morning, it's obviously 24 hours later. Okay, so there are a few plays we'll talk about here. So Tyler Carls, who's very good with his analysis, has put Pop is right to be upset. So anyone who's listening on YouTube, JD is going to try and be as detailed as much as we can. So there's Pop Douglas here. Oh, oopsie daisy, almost lost it there. Go away. That's it. Right, I can do this now. So there's Pop Douglas at the bottom of your screen there. JD.
Yep. So we're in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, 3 receivers. You've got a stack formation on the bottom of the screen there, where you've got Pop Douglas and it looks like KJ Osborne in front of him. And the idea there is Seattle defending this quite well. They've learned their lesson from Super Bowl 49, where with a stack formation, what you want is somebody up front who's taking a bit of a wider angle. The aim with the stack formation is the front guy kind of generates a legal pick and gives the person at the back a free release. Typically, you'll see somebody like Pop be the back guy, because they're smaller, harder to get a free release if you get in press. So that's what they're trying to generate there. So you can see that when the player runs, Osborne is going to directly run at that front guy, which takes him out of the play and immediately gives Pop
look at the amount of freaking green in the middle there of Pop.
Yep. So you can see that they've sort of, this is obviously turned to man because you can see KJ Osborne's been taken. You saw the player run straight across the face of Pop Douglas there. The linebacker comes across. And you've got the safety sitting over the top who's trying to crash down, but has had to fight over the traffic that Osborne's creating to get to Pop. I think Kieran mentioned this earlier about Jacoby Brissett holding onto the ball. I think you're starting to see now that window is closing because there, where we're at now, there's a linebacker and Jalen Polk's corner is going to flat in front of Pop Douglas here. That closes that window there and makes that a bit more difficult throw. What we need to see if there's, and again, I don't know the progression on this play, but typically if you're running a stack formation, the idea is to get quick separation and get the ball out quickly. So you would like to see Brissett making that decision here to identify we've got, especially if you get man coverage. If you can identify man coverage and you've got stack formation, that's bellissimo. That's what you want. And so that ball needs to be out there. And it does look like Brissett's eyeballing him. It's obviously hard to tell the quality of the video, but it looks like he's looking at Pop there. And that might be that hesitancy where he sees that linebacker on the outside hash and is just worried to throw that ball. But to me, that's a ball that's got to be thrown, and it's got to be thrown quickly. But that was the knock on Brissett, that he holds onto the ball too long.
Yeah, when he gets absolutely mangled. I mean,
he even has a man open in the flat as well. Look on the bottom of the screen.
That's either Henry or Hooper. That's Henry.
Yeah. But again, that's a long throw to make from the opposite hash across there with a man who's bearing down.
And I don't know.
Play, but
there's your chain right there. So what that would have been? That would have been what, 1st and 20? Wouldn't that been? Did we have a holding penalty to start with or something?
No, I think that's the first down, isn't it? It's the first down marker, I think.
At the 30, yeah, it was first down. So even if he caught it, what would he manage to get out of that?
If you hit him there, there's nobody outside the hashes that, you know. One thing I do like here is because we're typically in this kind of coverage here, in man coverage, you see that Pop actually flattens his route off, which is a really, really nice for a young player detail. Because if we were in zone there, you'd want him to continue down the field to try and get as many yards as possible. In man, you want him to flatten across. And you see now when he's running that sort of like, it was almost like a slant just straight across the field. He's running at 45 degrees and you see him flatten off at just over the 40-yard line. Because
hang on. I've just seen unnecessary roughness penalty. Have a look. On the top of the Pop, look at this. Just shoves him over. Just legitimately shoves him over. The official's right there.
Is this the one where they call pass interference that they really shouldn't have given us? Does Brissett throw this one to Pop? Because I haven't checked the play out beforehand.
No, he didn't throw it to Pop because he got sacked because the window closed, so he never got it in time.
Yeah, he does there. Look, he throws it to Pop, but he throws it really delayed. And this is the one where Witherspoon shoves him down, and the ball is like 5-7 yards away from Pop, and they give us a PI penalty for this. But yeah, that ball needs to come out a lot quicker. And I think if you get that ball out quicker, Pop has the opportunity. And again, one of Pop's strengths is that he's very good with the ball in his hands. And that's a problem.
So Evan Lazar posted, this play sums up the Patriots' downfield passing game perfectly. Well-scripted Y-League shot play. Pats get man coverage, dress it up in motion by Pop, and Hunter Henry's man gets lost on delayed release. However, the pass protection doesn't hold up. This should be 6.
This is the play I referenced earlier, the leak play, which is a West Coast staple, and something we should run well because of our play action and the strength of our run game.
So you got Douglas in there, Pop's there in motion.
A bit of window dressing just to kind of keep Seattle. And again, one thing we spoke about last week, you can see Witherspoon mirroring Pop across the field. So that is an indication for us there that that's man coverage. So if it's zone, typically you would see the outside corner inside Woolen just shift across. But because he's moved across, it's man. So if you go back just a smidge for me, please. You can see Hunter Henry. He's on the left-hand side of the formation. So he's the inline tight end on the left-hand top of the screen. His job here is to block and simulate getting beat, basically, so that his man believes he's blocking. He pretends like he's been beaten, and then he leaks out. The whole play is going from right to left. Even Jacoby Brissett is rolling out to his left. The whole play is scripted to go that way. And then when Hunter's man believes that he's run blocking, he slips out, leaks back against the formation. And what happens, well, you can see Hunter Henry, he's on the right hash there at the 20-yard line. There's nobody near him.
No.
There's nobody around. Now, his average separation stat was pretty good for this game, and I think it's largely because of this. When I tell my students in stat sessions that means are susceptible to outlier numbers, this is why. His average separation will be huge because of this play. But it is a scripted play that's designed to get him open. The issue is, I don't think he holds the block for quite long enough. And if you watch the beginning of the play, the issue is Layden Robinson's pulling from. So when Hunter Henry whiffs on his block, pretending to whiff on his block, Layden Robinson is pulling from right guard all the way across to the inline tight end part of the formation to block that right defensive end for Seattle. So you can see him pull. Now they're 64. So Hunter Henry also needs to lose that block to the inside. You can see that he forces the pass rusher to his outside. And what that means is Layden Robinson has got a really, really long way to go to make that block. Hunter Henry needs to lose inside so that he can hold him up for long enough that Layden Robinson can clatter him and basically blindside him there. And that's the aim. But because it's a combination of Layden Robinson not getting there quick enough and Hunter Henry not holding his block long enough and forcing him to the wrong side. And at that point, because Brissett is rolling out to the left and he's lost to the outside, that means that the defensive end there has got a beeline straight for Brissett. And you see Brissett have to roll around and then flail and grenade a pass to Hunter Henry that's so open. It's a 20-yard pass, but he's got no base and no footing, that he just yeets the ball over towards Hunter Henry's general direction, who has to slide and catch it. If Brissett's got the arm strength or gets the protection to get that ball there on a rope, Hunter Henry could walk in for a touchdown.
I was going to say. No, that's good. That's good there. All right. Oh, pause it again. So this one here, Jalen Polk at the bottom gets wide open on a crosser, but Brissett can't connect on the bootleg, which may need to be scrapped until May is the QB. This drive ended at Seattle's 10-yard line, and the Patriots settle for a field goal. Okay, so Polk's at the bottom here, as you can see.
Yep. So then we've got a sort of a trips kind of stack on that far side, a sort of really close trips formation, where you can see, I think it's
Henry
and KJ Osborne.
KJ Osborne and Pop, yeah.
Yep.
So,
and then as the play goes on, you're going to see, I think, so essentially running like a fake counter. So where you can see Hunter Henry and Layden Robinson are pulling from right to left. Hunter Henry then bails out of his blocking and reverses and goes back from whence he came to run into the flat. It's a really nice ball fake from Jacoby Brissett, which we're going to chastise him a little bit for the pass on this play, but that is a lovely ball fake. Henry's got Tariq Woolen over the top of him, so you can throw that, but you're likely getting a yard or two at best. What you get is quite a nice release from Polk on the backside, and he manages, it's man coverage again. He manages to get himself open. You can see that the safety at the top of the screen, they're in cover one. The safety has kind of gone with, is it Pop or KJ? I can't quite tell from the quality. I think it's Pop. He's gone with Pop Douglas over the top, so Pop's double covered. That leaves Polk one-on-one. And he has got, again, a lot of green space in front of him, especially when you see this from I was watching the All-22 footage on this play. If you see it from the back, it looks like potentially Tariq Woolen might kind of be able to jump that route, and it may be a bit dangerous, but he's got loads of space. And this, for me, the issue with this play is this is the nature of playing with a limited quarterback. You're asking him to make a throw on the run under pressure, and that's just not a throw that a player of Jacoby Brissett's quality is going to consistently make, and it's difficult. It's a difficult throw. It's not easy, but he's not an elite quarterback. And if you see the pass from the reverse angle, it's really bad. Jacoby Brissett has got a tendency that when he misses wide right and he misses low. And that's what he does in this play. The ball bounces a couple of yards short and 6 feet ahead of Jalen Polk.
Do you think a better athlete might shake the rusher there, JD? Like, you see how wide Jacoby's been forced, and we know he's not a fantastic athlete, but he's got a man bearing down at him. But it only takes a good athlete to juke back inside and give himself another second or two to release that. Well, that might be a part of his limited mobility.
Well, let's just go through. So he's faked the handoff to Stevenson. He's still got it. He's rolled.
I also think KJ Osborne does not hold his block. KJ Osborne has the block there, and he doesn't block the defensive end well enough.
If he beats him, if we had a more athletic quarterback, like Drake May, and he beats his rusher, Henry has then got the job of blocking him. If Henry does his job there, and obviously Pop delays his personnel on there, the only one that could probably get to him is maybe the safety, because he'll probably see that from afar and go, he's scrambling. We need to get him away. So there is a potential of that possibly.
I think you've probably got those 3 linebackers on the 20-yard line there that are probably going to have something to say about it. But yeah. I think you probably, if Henry can make a block to the inside, you've got some leeway down the sideline there to make at least some yardage. But I think there's some indication we're seeing on here that like some of the play design is good, and I think what we're actually trying to do with the play action and some of the unique play design is impressive, and I am quite happy with and quite impressed by. I think it's just, and sometimes the offensive line, sometimes it's Brissett. We're playing with a limited roster. Here you go. You can see the reverse.
Yeah. This is going to make it even worse now, isn't it?
What's number 2 there on the right-hand side next to Hunter Henry?
So there's Osborne there. Douglas is there.
He needs to hold his block. KJ Osborne doesn't block the defensive end for long enough. And as soon as Brissett rolls, you see that Osborne kind of is facing the wrong way for some reason.
Why have you got your back turned to the defensive end?
Because I think he's been spun around by the defensive end because he's not a great blocker, unfortunately. But if he holds that block up, it's his man that really pressures Brissett. Whereas if that player is half a second more delayed, that's a relatively simple.
I think Brissett doesn't make that throw then, because he might be able to find the gap and he can probably see Pop running there. But he's actually worried. If he gets his ball through, there's a chance he could pick him off. And I think that's why he delayed it so much. So I can understand why he done that. But by the time he does that, he's throwing it. I
actually complimented Pop earlier for flattening his route off in man coverage.
You can't flatten that any more than that.
If you watch from the other angle, Polk is still working downfield. Whereas if he flattens that route across, the ball's probably complete, because look where that bounces on about the 10. If he flattens that under the 10, this side of the 10-yard line, that ball's hitting him probably there. And there could be an element of Jacoby anticipating that Polk is going to do that, because typically against man coverage, like I said earlier, to prevent undercutting, you would like your receivers to flatten off. And he hasn't there. So I think, again, it's the limitations of a limited QB, but also I think that's something that a young receiver will learn. And hopefully they learn from this play by looking at it and realize what they're looking for.
Okay, I think we've got one more play here. Hang on. Oh, no, we've got a couple more plays here. How much time we got? I think we've gone over the hour mark now, haven't we?
Yeah,
we have.
Hour 4, right? Okay, yeah, we'll do this last one and then we'll get him on the Jets preview. Feels like Brissett has at least 2 options to convert on this 3rd and 2, with Henry and Polk breaking to space. Also might have been able to hit a lane up the middle, but probably easier said than done once Jordan chips Maffey around the edge. Okay, so
yeah, we've gone a bit more of a spread formation here. Looks like we can't see a tight end there. We've got 4 receivers and one running back. So we are in a bit more of a true pass set here, which is typically where we have struggled. And again, been forced into a 3rd down. This is where you are going to likely to be in a true pass set. Again, a little bit of motion at the bottom for Hunter Henry, just kind of bit of window dressing to kind of give the illusion of something more exciting happening.
So have a look. Brissett's there. He wants to go to that there, but he doesn't decide to take him. And that is Henry. So because he knows he's on the coverage there. Now he's looked for his second read, nothing there. So now he scrambles, and then he just loses it. But what we want to see is what plays develop, because there's a couple of arrows here. So I believe who's up the top there? Was that Pop or was that Osborne? So there's Henry there. He could have used an outlet right there for Henry because he's already got a block on here. So if he beats his tackle, there's a chance there. And
I think if he throws that inside to Henry, there's a good chance because Hooper has delayed Woolen a little bit. But I can see why he'd potentially be reluctant to throw that, but he has to put it inside. He is looking immediately at Hunter, and that's something I would probably expect an NFL QB to pull the trigger on. He then comes across the inside, but the middle of the field, I think the middle of the field route there to Polk is probably a little bit harsh in terms of saying that he should have thrown that. I think if you look at when he actually comes open, Brissett's already taken off because Maffei's bearing down on him from the blind side. And in all fairness, there's a double team on Maffei, and he shouldn't be winning that.
So as I said, so look at Brissett. So he's looking right. He sees Henry. Then in the next panel, he's looking back to his left, and he's either going for Osborne or he's going for Pop. But by the time he eventually wants to do that, he has to get out of there because the pockets collapse.
Go back to when the arrow just comes up for Polk's route there. I mean, if you're talking about a QB who's clearly been told to not turn the ball over, there is no chance he's making a throw through that window. And I don't think Brissett is likely accurate enough to do so. I think that's got to be. That's not a throw he's necessarily going to make. I think the biggest, if we play it, just go back just a little bit, please. To just before Hunter Henry makes his break there, that ball needs to be thrown now. At the NFL level, I mean, even at the level that I've played, like if you're throwing hooks and curls, the ball needs to be out of the quarterback's hands before that player breaks. If you're waiting for the receiver to turn around and be looking at you, if you only start throwing once you've made eye contact with the receiver on a hook or a curl, that's not getting complete. That's likely getting picked. And he needs to throw that there. He's looking at him, and I think it's another good example that supports what Kieran was saying earlier, that he needs to be less reluctant to pull the trigger. He's holding the ball too long at too many key spots, and that's an example of when he needs to just let it fly a little bit.
And I think what you've highlighted as well is two plays that have not necessarily come off as designed, and they've been highlighted by Evan Lazar, and obviously you've gone into detail on it. But I've come away from that thinking, I think Drake might have made those two plays. Now, I'm not suggesting, okay, put Drake May in Thursday night against the Jets, but it gives me confidence knowing that I think our third overall pick can make those plays, because we're going to run those plays again at some point several times throughout the season, and I think he will make them. So that gives me confidence that they will come off at some point. And I think it's just the guy in at the moment just doesn't quite have the skill set and capability to pull that off. Like that last one there, Jacoby doesn't make the two throws. Yes, one's risky, but he then wheels to his right and takes a sack. I think even then, if Drake doesn't pull the trigger on those plays, he evades the pressure and at least picks up a couple or runs out of bounds and doesn't take a hit.
He's athletic enough to make those plays. I think we saw that in the Washington preseason game where he was decisive and got the ball out of his hands quickly. And when things broke down, he was able to use his athletic ability to make plays. I don't know if maybe, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea if this is the case, that they're letting Drake learn through Jacoby's mistakes. That they're sitting there and saying, look, let's not put you out there to the wolves and let you just get slaughtered. You know, because while he may go out there and make some plays like that, I think there's a far more likelihood that I think it's very unlikely he's going to be at 0 turnover or 1 turnover where they play like Brissett is. I think it's probably going to be a few plays where he does push the envelope a little too far and turn the ball over. But I don't necessarily dislike the idea of him sitting there and learning from Jacoby's limitations and mistakes.
And it does seem like this offense is built for Drake, but being run by Jacoby. It's almost like he's the caretaker of Drake's offense. Like the plays they're running and the things we're missing on will probably be made by Drake. So it's almost like he's being shown like Jacoby is test driving the vehicle and Drake's the owner. Like he's watching the test drive. And I feel confident that when they do make the change, then that may be a positive, because I think this offense is built for his skill set and not for Jacoby's. But then again, I've always believed in, I don't know where you guys stand on it, I always believed that your backup should mirror your starting QB. So, you see like in Baltimore a couple of years ago, like Lamar's backup is Tyler Huntley, someone who's stylistically quite similar. But Drake May and Jacoby Brissett are really different in terms of their skill sets.
Yeah, definitely.
So would it have been better to have a QB as the placeholder that is similar to Drake?
Well, like who would you suggested?
That is a good question.
Yeah, who would you?
Who's available?
Who's available? Tannehill.
No, I think.
Tannehill seems to decline quite a lot. Maybe Jameis Winston, a bit more athletic than Jacoby Brissett, just a bit more erratic with the ball.
Yeah.
Still,
there's not an obvious answer. I just feel like that makes sense to do that. And yes, it's a stopgap, but yeah, I think this offense is being built for Drake, and Jacoby's just not quite the stylistic fit for what we're trying to run.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, we're going to crack on straight in with the Jets preview. But before we do that, someone has finally come out of Scotland looking, well, not looking worse for wear, but he's back with us. Joe, good evening, mate. Good evening.
Good evening, gents. Good evening. How are we all?
Not bad. Hope you enjoyed your Celtics game. Much appreciated.
I enjoyed it very much so.
Fair enough. Okay, we've talked a lot about Seahawks. We talked about the analysis of what we've seen so far. We're going to do the preview of the Jets game this Thursday night. Watch along still to be confirmed yet. I haven't made a decision on that yet, but there is a potential of that happening. Joe, you've dropped in first, so just give us your key points going into this game against the Jets in the early hours of Friday morning.
Has to be better than last week. And again, for me now, I just jumped in at the end of the conversation there about the Drake May stuff. For me, the Jacoby Brissett experiment or caretaker role is over. It is time to unleash Drake May on the league.
How much have you drunk? How much have you drunk?
I haven't drunk. Stone cold sober, mate. Stone cold sober. But no, I just think, like I say, I joined in the end of the conversation from the boys, and like you say, there's plays in that, especially when we're getting down towards red zone, that I think Drake May makes. And I think going into it now, he needs the experience to get him out there. Jacoby Brissett in that game last week was one hit away from being done. There was a few times we put in the group chat where he took a few hits and we were all saying, it looks like it might be it. Now is the time for Drake May, for me.
I think that's a good point you make there, Joe, because with 2 games into the season, and Jacoby's literally had to be helped up a couple of times. Like there have been in both games times we thought, oh, he's hurt, and he's not been durable throughout his career. It wouldn't shock me if Drake's in via an injury, to be honest.
Yeah, the one he took on the knee, I thought that was at that point. I was putting Poppy to bed, and I said to Hannah, I'm going to have to go downstairs. I think this is the start of the Drake May era. I think he's in. I've just watched Jacoby Brissett just have his knee obliterated. I think he's in. I'm off. See you later. You can finish story time. I'm going. I think that was that's what I thought was happening, but I don't know how he came back on the field. I thought he's ACL, MCL, the whole lot were gone. But yeah.
I just think now is the time. I think we've seen the limitations.
Stop. What has our governor put? I don't want Megan anywhere near this O-line. Fine.
It's going to be the same O-line all year.
Prefer Milton in.
Please don't put Joe Milton in.
I think Joe has hit the nail on the head there. I understand what DJ's saying. It's scary throwing your third overall pick behind arguably the worst offensive line in the league, but the line is going to be the same all year. So whether you throw him in week 3, week 5, week 10, or week 18, he's going to have the same problems. So unless you're sitting him the whole year, which is not going to happen, I think we can categorically say May is not sitting the whole year, then you're just going to have to bite the bullet 1 week, I think.
It's just one of them ones. Why wait on? Is just get him out there now.
I keep repeating myself. He had barely no offensive line in North Carolina. He's going to have it's going to make not a blind bit of difference. He's going to be in North Carolina or in the New England Patriots O line. There isn't one. He's just got to. He's going to have to try and wing it at some point. Is he going to make mistakes? Yes. Is he going to make turnovers? Potentially. But if he's trying to make plays to actually move the ball down the field, rather than keep throwing 1 to 3, 4 to 5 ducks all the time. At least he's trying to move the ball down the field. At least you want to see that. I know people will have highlight reels. Poor Drake May. He's awful. He's terrible. He's thrown 2 picks today because he tried to throw the ball down the field. And he's trying to win the game for the team. That's the whole point of
the
why
one thing
we
I would
brought
say
you
about
into
that is look at Peyton Manning his rookie season. And I'm not comparing him to Peyton Manning by no means. But rookie season, Peyton Manning, I think he threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns.
He
learned from it. That's what we've got to do. I think we've just got to get him out there. And it's daunting going up against the Jets. Apologies, Glasgow traffic for you. You're going up against the Jets. They've got a very, very good D-line. We've got a very, very bad O-line. We know that. But it's like we said, it's not going to get better going anywhere the further along in the season. He needs to get out there. He needs the experience. It's time for the Drake May era to start.
Besides of the Drake May era starting for you, what other key points are you looking for in this game?
I think again on defense, I think going from week 1 and then the defense last week, there were times where we just looked completely shot. Obviously, the touchdown, which was a bit of miscommunication from Kyle Duggar and Gonzo, which I think they've come out after and said that. I think that Duggar's taking the blame for that, which I think we chatted about in the group at the time. And again, for me, it's just we've got to start stepping it up. I think the defense, how good our defense is going to be. We've arguably got one of the top 5 defenses in the league, and they're going to be going up against, like you say, someone like Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't looked great so far in the clips I've seen from him. Doesn't look like he's the Aaron Rodgers of old. Yes, he's still got the arm, but mobility issues. I think we need to just get Keon running at him all game, as much pressure as we can. Don't give him time, because that's going to be where the game's going to be won and lost again. I think offense, we know what we're going to do on offense. We know that the O-line is poor. We know we're going to have to keep the score as low as possible to win the game. So I think for me that's my key points going into tomorrow's night.
JD, what about you? What are your points you're looking for in this game?
For me, trenches. Trenches, I think, is where this game is going to be won and lost. I think the secondary-wise, I don't think it really matters that much. They've got Sauce Gardner, who's probably the best corner in the league, but who the hell is he going to cover? Because we haven't got any receivers, so that doesn't matter, does it? So he's essentially useless. They've got their receiving core is really top heavy. They've got Garrett Wilson. I just stick Gonzo on him and say, just erase him. And if Alan Lazard wants to beat us, great. If Alan Lazard is beating us, then we've got bigger problems to worry about. And I think between Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones, I'm comfortable that they can take care of him. I don't think they've got that many other weapons. I think they run the ball okay. Braylon Allen and Breece Hall are really nice complementary running backs. I don't think we're going to confuse Aaron Rodgers by disguising coverage and things like that. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think we have to keep the defensive coverage nice and simple and just say our guys are better than your guys. But I think the issue we're going to have is that our offensive line is the second worst pass blocking offensive line in the league. The Jets generate the most pressure through the first 2 weeks of the season. And that's a concern. That's where they're going to beat us. The other side of things is they are, I think, the 5th worst run defense in the league and the 7th worst tackling team in the league. And that is obviously where we're strong. So I think, again, it's going to sound like I'm a broken record at this point, but if we want to win this game, it will be by running the ball and forcing the Jets out of. You're seeing it across the league. Everyone loves a too high cover two shell, and that's what's stopping big plays and why passing's down, in my opinion. I think in the last 2 games, we struggled offensively to hit shot plays because teams are just sitting in cover two. We have to run the ball to a degree that we force a team out of cover two. And the Jets are bad enough at defending the run that if we can run it effectively, it depends how well our offensive line is looking in that game because Notebook is healthy. I think if we can run the ball well enough, it'll force them out of cover two, and we might be able to take advantage of those shots down the field. But I think the trenches are where we're gonna see some issues in the game. But I think that's where everyone lost.
Kieran, what about you?
Well, first things first, it's Patriots Jets. This game will be played tough. We don't lie down against the Jets. No matter how outmanned we are, we will always step it up against them. So that gives me confidence that I think we'll keep this game close. I think Johnny hit the nail on the head with the running game situation. They are poor against the run. So I'm expecting both teams to run the ball a lot on Thursday night. I think we'll see a lot of Braden Allen, Breece Hall, Stevenson, Gibson. I would almost just gamble to stop the run and just see what they can do in one-on-one coverage. I have confidence that Gonzalez can keep Garrett Wilson in check. And as JD said, if you're going to, then it's on Alan Lazard and Gibson and Malachi Corley and whoever to beat you elsewhere. So I would almost sell out to stop the run game. I think we'll play them really tough. I think this is going to be really low scoring. I would love to predict a win. I think we beat them in Foxborough later in the season. But on the road, on a short week with the injuries, I think we'll lose. I don't think we're going to score a touchdown.
We haven't lost to the Jets since 2015.
Yeah. But I think we will keep this game competitive. It might be a bit of an ugly watch, but I think we've got I think we've got a chance. Let's just say we've got a chance, but we're going to need to play really, really, really solid to have any chance of winning. Discipline.
Biggest one for me is discipline. Yeah. Stay disciplined. Don't take any unnecessary penalties. Please don't line up in illegal formations, for goodness sake.
And obviously with Johnson and Mosley being out as well, I'd be inclined to double team Quinn and Williams a lot of the time and just see what happens.
And I think it's going to be that Aaron Rodgers he is to a fault the most cautious QB probably the league's ever seen. Like his interception rate is so low because he just does not take risks. So again, similar to what we saw with Geno, I just don't think he's going to turn the ball over. So it's about us not making those breakdowns and seeing the difference between having Juwan Bentley with the green dot and seeing Duggar with the green dot and seeing what that difference that makes. Stopping those communications and not giving them chances because Rodgers will take it. I know he's not looked as old Rodgers, but he will take the chances and he will not give us chances because he just doesn't do that. So yeah, I think you're right, Kieran, that we've got to take advantage of the chances we get and not give them more opportunities than they give us.
As I said, for me, it's discipline. Keon White as well. I think to carry on home wrecking like what he's been doing over the last 2 games. Really looking forward to seeing how he gets on with them. And yeah, the offensive line. And Caden Wallace. We know Caden Wallace is going to be one playing at left tackle. So good luck to him. And hopefully he can actually keep Jacoby Brissett off his backside. But you never know. But that's the thing. You don't know what you're going to expect with your draft picks. At some point you have to put them in and just say, sink or swim, mate. And we're going to find out on Friday morning whether or not Caden Wallace sinks or swims at left tackle. And if he performs admirably well, then we may have got a gem because he is going up against the number 1 team on pressure. So let's see what he can do. I look forward to seeing how Wallace gets on because I liked him out coming out of Penn State. I did like him.
Just to piggyback off your point with Keon White there, he's playing so well that it just makes me really, really sad that Barmore's not out there. Could you imagine those two on the interior together?
Mm-hmm. Oh. No one gets through. No one gets through.
Tied for second in the league with sacks at the moment, just behind Aiden Hutchinson. who did it all in one game.
Yeah, he was obscene. He was so good in that game. They get 2 in the first quarter.
Yeah. Okay. Right, lads, we're going to get on out of here. Thank you, everyone that's been watching. Thank you to Joe for stepping in at last minute to have his say. Much appreciated,
Always
mate.
a pleasure, gents. Always a pleasure.
Get back home safely, or get back to your hotel safely, because you are in Glasgow after all.
Hey.
Yeah.
We got your stab vest on.
I'm fine.
Yeah, bumped into a Rangers fan. Oh shit!
There's none of them out. It's a Champions League night. They'll be watching Emmerdale.
Ooh, okay. Ooh. On that note, we're getting out of here. Thank you everyone who's been watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to everyone. Keep on hitting that subscribe button. Keep on hitting that like button, and follow us on all our social media platforms and on the Sports Social Network for our podcast as well. Our next podcast will be next Tuesday, where we review the Jets game. But there is a potential of us going live in the early hours of Friday morning for the watch along against the Jets. Still to be confirmed yet. Make sure you got your notifications turned on our X account, where we will post and we will let you know if we are doing one or not. But my big thanks to Kieran, JD, and to Joe at last minute. Thank you for watching. Good night. God bless. Go Patriots. And F the Jets. Good night.